All right, welcome back. Let's continue on our game. And in this episode, we're going to do or add levels. So we're going to look at the general idea of how to add a level and adding XP and such. So obviously, let's head over to the entities first. And there's a few things we need to set up first. So let's head over to the environment first. And inside of our attributes, here we go, we're going to add the XP. So any sort of XP will go here, right? So this will keep track of the total XP that we have, right? So we'll say melee XP. So we're going to do like a melee attack first. So we're going to have a melee level first for, just melee stuff, right? And I'm going to change the color here to kind of a reddish, and the rest we will keep defaulted. And we'll save. Just do keep in mind, so that means the first level will take 100 XP to level up, right? So just do keep that in mind, unless you want to change that. Now in the entity variables, this is where we will put our level. So in here, let's add melee level, and then this will be a number, and we'll put 1 as default, right? That kind of makes sense. So we can have level 1. It says already exists, might because I clicked enter twice. And I believe that might be it. Let me just double check. Yes, I think that is it. So now what we can do is inside of our player type, let's head over to our player type, and we're going to assign the melee XP to this guy. And inside of here, we will just say all of this is good and save. And inside the variable, we're going to put the level, the melee level, right? And I think the rest should be good. Yeah, and we can save. Let me just double check. Yeah, we should be good on that. Now let's just exit this. Now in our homey, we're going to need to add a few scripts. So the first script we're going to do, or first thing we're going to do actually, is let's add a new folder and say leveling. And then we'll create a new folder. Actually, no, sorry. We'll just move this folder outside, I think. There we go. And then inside this folder, we'll add a new script and put it in. Might have to, I'll figure it out how to add them in later. But we'll call this one attribute increaser. So this will increase the attribute of our level, right? Or our XP. So in here, let's add a new action, and we'll say set, just double check, set player attribute value, right? Because we basically want to add to it. So in the attribute type, this is pretty simple because we just need to select the melee XP. Now of the player, we're going to select the owner of unit, which is this entity. So we'll say this entity, so the player, because we're in the player script. We'll click OK, and then the value, what we'll have to do is, this might be a little weirder, is we're going to go to functions, calculate, and then here what we'll do is op. So we'll say functions, so let's cancel. Okay, so in the op1, we'll make sure that we go over here to the op1, and in here we have to select, player attribute value, and then we're going to get the current melee XP, right? And then obviously of the player. So same thing, we have to say owner of the current, or this entity. So it's a little long, but the basic idea here is we're going to get the melee XP of the current unit, which is us, right? And then we're going to add some value. So we're going to add like 20, let's say, right? So this is kind of up to you. This is where you would add XP, right? So in the future, we might add this to a death thing or whatever. But for now, we'll just put this in, right? So that's 20. So click OK, click OK. Now, what we want to do is we'll also add text to show that we added or we gained XP, okay? So this is kind of a cool thing that we'll have. So we'll say set fading text of a unit, and then the unit is this entity. Just say this entity, and then value, we're going to say as a string. Let me just double check. Okay, so we're going to go to function. Yeah, we're going to select this one. And then the first value will be string up here, but then the functions down here will be string converted from number. String converted from number. So now we have the string allowing us to convert whatever value we put, which will now be the melee XP, right? So now in here we have to go to functions and then select player attribute value, and that player attribute will be the melee XP, and then of this entity, or owner of a unit, and then this entity. There we go. Now click OK. Click OK. Click OK. Click OK. Yes. And then the value here. Let me just double check. I'm going to say over here, go to functions, concentrate, and then in here we will go over here to this. So we're going to have a manual input. So it's going to have out of, and then the value, it's going to be the maximum. So in here, we'll go to functions and then player attribute. Nope. Oh, we have to go over here. That makes more sense. Go player attribute value. Oh no, sorry, not value. We're going to get the maximum of that value, right? So we're going to get the max of our melee XP. So in here, we're going to show the melee XP. Click OK, and then of this, or owner of a unit, and then obviously this entity, right? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It's quite a bit. However, now we can actually give the value of the string. So let me see, what did I do? I did white. Yeah, so I'll just do white. Click OK. And so now we can see the text pop up whenever I gain XP. However, we don't have a way of gaining XP, so let's add that. So let's close this for now and save it. Now we have our script. That's nice. Now in our homie, we're going to go to controls, and inside of here, for now, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have this in the game, obviously. But for now, what we'll do is I'm going to say V. Yeah, let's say V, or any button really. I'm going to do, yeah, where's V? There we go, V. And then in here, I'm going to run the script, attribute increase. So this will add 20 XP to our player. Cost, we don't need to add anything to this. We don't need to change. I think that is good. So we can save and apply. And if I type play, my player died. So let's, oh, there we go. All right, so I'm hitting B and nothing's happening. So let's try to check to see if we did anything wrong. Pressed, attribute increase. We also need to make sure that we actually give it the attribute. So let's give it the melee XP over here. And let me just make sure everything's good. Yeah, this should be all good. Let's save. And then in here, we'll give it the melee level. So this makes sense that we need to do that. Let's save and apply. There we go. And now let's play. Wait for our player to respawn. Hit V, and again, nothing's happening. Oof. Okay, let's take a look one more time. All right, so it turns out we actually had to republish the game. So I did that, and now you can see that it's working. I did actually also change the script in here to every second. That's why you're seeing that. So let me remove that. But yeah, now it should work properly. So now we've created the attribute level XP, but you can see that it's not leveling up, right? So what we want to do is, well, we need to create a level up script. So let's head over to the homie script, and in here, let's add new script. And maybe I can push that in now. There we go. So in this new script, we'll call this, well, level up, right? And this will trigger when a player, ooh, I lied. We're not going to put it in here. That makes sense. We're not going to put it in the player itself. We're going to put it in the world script. So let's close that and save it. And then in our world script, we'll actually put it in here. So let's actually create a new folder for this, and we'll call it player scripts. And then in here, we'll create a new script. This will be the level up script. And then in here, we'll say when a player's attribute becomes full, right? Because we want to check if the melee XP becomes full, right? 100 out of 100. So now let's add a new action. And this is easy. We'll just add an else if statement. And this statement will check to see if the attribute is the melee XP. So we're going to do attribute type comparison. The attribute is going to be the last triggering. Here we go. I have to select this one. What am I doing? Last triggering attribute. There we go. Click OK. And the attribute of this entity will be, I think we just go to constant. Here we go. Melee XP. And that is it. Yeah. So we just now check to see if that attribute that just became full is the melee XP. And if it is, what we do is first we want to set the melee XP to 0, back to 0, right? So what we'll do is we'll say set variable. Actually set player attribute value. And so we're going to set it to 0, so that makes sense. And the player will do last triggering player. So we'll click OK. And the attribute will do the melee. And we can click OK. And that's it. Now what we also want to do is we want to set the level to +1. So we want to get the current level and add to it. So let's add a new action. I'll say set player variable. So we'll set the variable, which will be melee level, of the last triggering player. So this one, click OK. And then now this one's going to be a little tricky. So what we need to do is calculate. We need to get the current melee level, right? So in here, we'll say calculate again. So in here, we'll say player variable instead. So we'll get the current melee level of the last triggering player. And then we'll add 1 to it. Right? So we get the melee level of the last triggering player, and then we just add 1. Right? We usually level up by 1, not like 3 or 4. So that makes sense. So now we've increased the level of the melee level, and we add one more action. Now what we need to do is increase, well, the melee XP, right? Because once we level up, generally we make the game a little harder. So we'll set player attribute max value. So the attribute type is going to be the melee XP. Okay, the player will do the last triggering player. Now for the value, this is going to be a little tricky because what we want to do is we want to make this exponentially harder. Either you can set a permanent number, which doesn't really make sense because we'll set it to a certain number, or we have to calculate this. So what we'll do is we'll use floor, so math floor. And so what we'll do in the value is we'll say calculate. We're going to do 100 here. So this is the default value, the first level essentially. And instead of plus, we'll do times. And then we're going to multiply it by the exponential of 1.2. So we're going to make this 1.2 here. And then we're going to say the power of the, let me see. Yeah, we need to get the current player variable. So we're going to get the current level of our melee XP, or level, sorry. And then we'll kind of have that as an exponential thing, right? So last triggering player, click OK. All right, there we go. So now we have the floor of 100, which is the first level up, right, at 100, to basically 1.2 exponential, right? So this will exponentially make our game harder. All right, we're almost done. Now what we'll do is we'll also add text to show that we leveled up, right? So kind of a cool way to make sure that we see that we're leveling up. So we'll say, actually what we'll do is to make this a little easier, let's go to the homey, let's go to the leveling, go over here, let's copy this, and then we will just paste it here. Instead of this entity, we're going to do get selected unit of player. And this player will be the last triggering player, right? So whoops, there we go. Last triggering player. There we go. And then as a string of, instead of melee XP, so go over here, go to here, melee XP, we're going to do melee level. So in order to do that, we might actually have to change quite a bit here. So hold on, let's back up a little bit. So here, 1 second. Okay, let's cancel that. So in here, we'll go over here to concentrate. So in here, we have string converted, which is right. And then in here, we will say player variable. That makes more sense. Now we can select the melee level and then of the last triggering player. Click OK. And I think that is good. So now we have access to the melee level. And then we don't actually need this. So we can let me check. How do we get rid of that? I think we just say string up. Well, I guess we're going to have to put everything back. Let me just double check. Okay. So in here, we'll say player variable, and then we'll get the level. So it turns out I probably shouldn't have actually copy pasted it because we had the whole division thing anyways. Okay, there we go. That makes a lot more sense. So now we have the melee level of the last triggering player. That's all we need. Instead of white, what we'll do is we'll do green. I think I can just type in green like that. Let me just double check. Yep, that should be good. So now we can say, okay. And now let's close this. And then I'm going to republish. I'm going to try actually, see what happens. Nope. Okay, let's republish just to find out. All right, so let's test this out. All right, so you can see that I'm leveling up. However, it's saying undefined. So that means some things are happening. In fact, we're even getting some errors here, which don't really help us. So let's go back to the entities and take a look at what's happening. All right, so I actually found out what was wrong. And at the time of you doing this, you shouldn't have this problem actually. It should have worked for you properly. But what happened for me, and if you're watching this more recently, if you go to the editor configuration, the engine version was the latest and there was an error or problem in that engine version. So we have to go back to 2.12. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, it should be fixed. I've been told that this problem will be fixed within 24 hours of me even recording this. So unfortunately, I had to go back a version. But now, wait for me to respawn, and then I'll show you. All right, here we go. So if I start leveling up, you can see the green is leveling up. And of course, it's kind of up to you whether or not you want to even show the XP text. I probably wouldn't. I would probably show just the level up text. But yeah, that's it. This video is a little long, but you know, level up is really cool. It's a cool addition to a game, and we'll probably go into how to apply this later as well. So